I should have died at that tree. I don't say this as an exaggeration, but as a statement of fact. There was no human way out. There was no strength, water, help, or time. There was only me, the sun burning my skin, ropes tied around my wrists, and the certainty that if something didn't come from above, my story would end there. My name is Robert Nickson. I'm American from Chicago, and this is my testimony. I have always been Catholic. Not one of those who talks a lot about faith, but one of those who grew up praying before bed, who learned from their mother that Mary does not abandon a child. I carried this faith with me throughout my life, even when work took me far from home, to extreme places where nature shows how small man is. I believed in God. I trusted the Virgin Mary. But I had never needed to trust like I did that day. I was on a filming expedition in the African savannah when I was surprised by illegal hunters. They were violent, impatient, intolerant. I don't know how in that moment I didn't lose my life. There was no negotiation. I could barely speak, defend myself, explain that I was just a photographer. In any case, the leader of those hunters decided to do nothing with me. He knew that I, there in that savannah, would be easy prey for hungry animals. I was tied with thick ropes to a tree and abandoned there, as if my life had no value. When the sound of the vehicle disappeared over the horizon, the silence became deafening. I shouted for help until my voice failed. I knew my team was far away. Alone, I understood that I would depend only on God. The first night came, bringing cold and sounds that chilled the soul. The distant laughter of hyenas echoed in the darkness. By the second morning, thirst was already making me delirious. Each thought came and went like a shadow. On the third day, my body began to give up. That's when I realized something frightening. I no longer had the strength to pray like before. Even so, with the little that remained in me, I spoke to Mary. It wasn't a beautiful prayer. It was a child's plea. I said that I had always trusted her, that I had always carried her in my heart, and that now I was placing my life in her hands. I asked that if it was my time, she would welcome me, and if it wasn't, that she would protect me. At that moment, something changed. The fear fell silent. A deep peace took over me, and the most inexplicable thing, a scent of roses filled that place. A pleasant fragrance filled the whole space, filled me and gave me comfort. I remained silent, trying to understand all that. I no longer had hopes of leaving that place alive, and that scent of roses seemed to be a divine phenomenon, something from God that was there to take me with Him. I closed my eyes, fell silent, praying in thought and accepting my end. It was in that silence that I heard heavy footsteps approaching. I opened my eyes with difficulty, not knowing if I was still alive. Before me, something was slowly emerging, and I still didn't know. But that moment would forever mark my faith and my life. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. Write in the comments what time it is and what city you are in right now as you listen to this testimony. I'm very curious to know how far my testimony is reaching. Also, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This is very important and helps us grow. Well, let me continue from where I left off. After that prayer, something I can't explain logically happened inside me. My body was still weak, thirst still burned, but the anguish ceased. It wasn't resignation, it was trust, as if someone had taken control when I could no longer. I remained there, tied up, breathing with difficulty, but with a new certainty. I was not abandoned. I remember repeating simple words that I learned as a child. They weren't long phrases. It was just her name, Mary, Mother, Protector. I always believed that the Virgin Mary listens even when we don't know what to say. At that moment, I was no longer asking to live. I just trusted. If it was my time, I was at peace. If not, something would happen. Time seemed to slow down. The wind ceased for a few moments. Even the sounds of the savannah seemed to fade away. It was in that strange silence that I felt a serene presence around me. I saw nothing. I heard no voices, but the feeling was clear, as if someone were there, watching, guarding, waiting for the right moment. I closed my eyes for a few seconds, overcome by fatigue, and thought of my mother praying at home, not knowing where I was. When I opened my eyes again, I saw something that made my heart race once more. In front of the tree, a few meters away, an adult male lion was slowly emerging from the vegetation. Its stature was imposing. Every muscle seemed charged with strength. In any other circumstance, that encounter would mean certain death. Tied up, weak, I knew I wouldn't be able to react. By instinct, I tried to scream, but I couldn't. My voice didn't come out. The lion took a few more steps and then stopped. It didn't growl. It didn't show its teeth. It just watched me. Its eyes carried no aggression. They were attentive, watchful. For the first time since I was abandoned, I felt something different from fear. I felt protection. In that instant, I understood something profound. The answer to my prayer wouldn't come in the way I imagined. Mary wouldn't send people, helicopters, or easy paths. She had chosen to act through creation. What was before me was not coincidence. It was providence. My heart raced, but my soul remained calm. And then the lion took another step toward me. The lion approached slowly, with firm steps, as if each movement was deliberate. My body trembled, but my soul remained strangely tranquil. It was a calm that did not come from me. I knew it wasn't courage, it was trust. Trust of a child who believes that the mother does not abandon him in extreme moments. When the lion got closer, I realized that it wasn't watching me as prey. Its gaze passed over me and lingered on the ropes that bound me. It sniffed those thick fibers hardened by the sun and let out a low growl. It wasn't a threat, it was irritation. At that moment, I felt a shiver run through my entire body. Something there didn't follow the logic of the wild nature. That's when I noticed a detail that made my heart race. On its left front paw, there was an old, deep scar, impossible to ignore. That mark awakened a memory I had never forgotten, just kept hidden. 2 years earlier, on another expedition, I had found a young lion trapped in a hunter's snare. He was injured, infected, on the brink of death. On that occasion, I had stopped everything. I could have moved on, but something in me wouldn't allow it. I called a local veterinarian, Dr. Samuel, and together we risked our lives to save him. For weeks, I returned every day to clean the wound, apply medication, and monitor his recovery. I prayed before each approach. I asked for protection. I entrusted that life to the hands of Mary as well. Gradually, the lion recovered. On the day we left, he looked at me for a long time, a gaze I have never forgotten. And now there, tied up weak, I clearly understood something that made my eyes fill with tears. Mary had not just heard my prayer. She had prepared the answer long before that day. That lion before me was the same, stronger, older, but marked by the same scar. With the little voice I had left, I murmured words of gratitude to the Virgin Mary. I didn't ask for anything else. I just thanked her. The lion then lunged at the ropes and began to bite them forcefully. Fiber by fiber, he worked patiently. The impossible was starting to happen, and I knew it wasn't instinct. It was an instrument. Mary had chosen how to save me. The sound of the fibers breaking seemed to echo inside me. Each snap of the ropes was like a second of life returned. The lion worked with precision, alternating bites and pulls until I felt my wrists free. I fell to my knees on the ground, too weak to stand, but aware that something extraordinary was happening. With trembling hands, I touched the warm earth and silently thanked the Virgin Mary. I knew I was not there by chance. Still kneeling, I felt a shiver run through my body. The lion stepped back a few paces and became rigid, alert. His gaze changed. It was then that I heard again the sound that had accompanied me since the first night, the laughter of the hyenas, now closer, bolder. They had caught my scent, a wounded, weak, abandoned man, an easy target. Before fear returned, the lion positioned himself in front of me. His imposing body formed a barrier between me and the darkness. He let out a powerful roar that made my chest vibrate. The hyenas hesitated for a moment, but there were too many. They began to surround us, advancing slowly, testing boundaries. My heart raced. I had no strength to flee. All I could do was pray again. As the hyenas attacked, the lion reacted with a force that seemed to go beyond the natural. He moved quickly, defending each flank. Even so, at one point, 3 of them advanced together from behind. One sank its teeth into the lion's leg. He staggered and fell heavily to the ground. My heart stopped for a second. The feeling of helplessness was overwhelming. Without thinking, I staggered to a stone on the ground and hurled it with all the strength I had left. The impact made the hyena recoil, letting out a sharp cry. The others pulled back for a few moments. The lion managed to rise again. He looked at me. There was no anger in his eyes. There was recognition and something deeper. At that moment, I felt that Mary had not only freed me from the ropes. She was still there, sustaining every movement, protecting every second. The hyenas, as if realizing they would not win, slowly retreated until they disappeared into the darkness. Silence once again dominated the savannah. I remained there, breathing heavily, but alive, free, protected, and aware that the miracle was not yet over. When silence returned to dominate the savannah, I understood that I needed to leave. I was free from the ropes, but my body was still at its limit. 3 days without water, almost out of strength, with injuries and an exhausted mind. Still, something inside me said that I could make it, not for myself, but because I would not walk alone. I entrusted my steps once more to the Virgin Mary and began to move. Each step was a battle. My legs seemed not to obey me. The ground wavered before my eyes. At several moments, I thought I would fall and not get up again. I had always been a man of faith, but I had never felt the need to trust so deeply. I spoke to Mary in my thoughts as one speaks to a mother. I asked only for strength for the next step, just to continue. The lion walked by my side. Sometimes he moved a few meters ahead, surveyed the surroundings, and returned. At other times he stayed so close that I could hear his breathing. When I slowed my pace, he stopped. When I stumbled, he came closer. There was no hurry in his movements, just care. That constant presence sustained me more than any food. Night fell, bringing cold and new sounds. The savannah transformed into an even more threatening place. Every noise seemed to announce danger. Even so, the peace I felt after the prayer remained intact. It was as if an invisible cloak enveloped me. I knew that Mary was walking with me, guiding not only my steps, but also that animal that was protecting me. At a certain moment, my strength completely gave out. My legs gave way, and I sat on the ground, gasping. The stars began to appear in the sky, one by one, illuminating the darkness. The lion approached slowly and lay down beside me. His warm body touched mine. I leaned against him without thinking. That warmth penetrated my tired body and brought comfort. It was not just physical, it was nurturing. It was care. I took a deep breath and cried silently, not from fear, but from gratitude. I thanked the Virgin Mary for not abandoning me, for sustaining me when my strength was gone. After a few minutes, I managed to get up again. I continued to walk, one step at a time, and with each step I was sure that this miracle was not just about surviving. It was feeling undeniably that I was loved, protected, and guided. In the distance, a light began to emerge, small, almost imperceptible. My heart raced. I still didn't know, but I was about to experience the last and deepest sign of that night. The light grew in the distance, firm, real. Each step I took seemed impossible, but I kept going. Not from physical strength, for it no longer existed, but from something that carried me within. As I approached, I heard voices. I saw people running toward me, my campmates. Arms caught me before I fell. Someone kept repeating that I was safe now. I could barely respond. I just turned my face back. The lion was there, standing a few meters away, watching silently. He did not advance. He did not retreat. He simply waited. I gathered the little energy I had left and moved away from the people. I walked a few steps toward him and knelt down with difficulty. At that moment I thought of neither fear nor logic, just gratitude. I looked at that animal and, above all, at the invisible presence I had felt since the tree. "Thank you, Mother," I murmured with a choked voice. "Thank you for not abandoning me." The lion approached slowly, and rested his snout on my hand. A simple gesture, profound, impossible to forget. Then he turned and walked toward the darkness of the savannah until he completely disappeared. There, on my knees, I understood something that changed my life. I had always been Catholic. I had always believed in the Virgin Mary. But that night, my faith became more than just belief. It became certainty. Days later, fully recovered, I went over every moment. The exact time of the prayer, the peace that came before any help, the appearance of the lion, the continuous protection, the strength to walk when my body could no longer. None of that was chance. It was not animal instinct. It was not luck. It was intercession. It was a mother's care. Mary heard the cry of a son and responded in a way that only heaven could orchestrate. Today, I share this testimony because I know that someone needs to hear it. Perhaps you are living your own desert. Perhaps you feel bound without strength, without a way out. I have been there, and I can state with full conviction, the Virgin Mary does not abandon those who trust in her. Even when everything seems lost, she finds paths that our eyes cannot see. If this testimony touched your heart, stay with us and continue listening to these stories of faith and hope. Share this video with that person who is also bound without hope for some reason. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Let's together spread accounts and testimonies of God's great love and the Virgin Mary. May God bless you greatly. Amen.